All right, let's talk about a massive $100 billion problem that nonprofits are up against every single year. And it's not what you think. It's not about finding new donors. It's about keeping the ones they already have. But here's the good news. The solution might actually be way simpler than you'd guess. In fact, it probably lands in your inbox all the time. So let's dive in and see how we can fix this.
So the heart of this whole thing is what a lot of folks in the field call the leaky bucket problem. Just picture it. Organizations are working their tails off to bring in new donations, pouring water into this bucket, but they just can't stop the donors they already have from leaking right back out. It's this constant, totally exhausting cycle.
Okay, so how bad is this leak really? I want you to take a guess. After someone makes that very first generous donation, what percentage of those people ever come back to give a second time? Just let that sink in for a second. What do you think the number is?
39%. That's it, just 39. I mean, think about that. For every 10 new donors an organization brings in, more than 6 of them are just gone forever. That number is a huge red flag. It should be setting off alarm bells all over the place.
So let's be super clear about what this means. We're talking 61% of first-time donors are lost after just one donation. That is the leaky bucket in action, right there. You can keep pouring more and more water in, but that bucket is just never ever going to get full.
But, what if the whole approach is just wrong? What if the answer isn't about asking for more money, but about connecting on a deeper level? This is where the whole script flips. The secret to plugging those leaks? It's not more fundraising appeals. It's real, genuine engagement.
And listen, the data here is just staggering. Look at this. Donors who only get asked for money, their retention is less than 50%. But what happens when they feel connected, when they get regular updates and stories? For those recurring givers, that number just skyrockets to 83%. That's not just a little bump. That is a complete and total game changer.
And all that engagement, it translates directly into long-term value. I mean, a recurring monthly donor, someone who really feels like they're part of the mission, has a lifetime value that's over 5 times higher than a one-and-done donor. We're talking about the difference between a simple transaction and a real long-term partnership.
Okay, so if engagement is the answer, then the next question is, how do we actually do it? Well, all the data points to one super powerful, proven tool, the good old newsletter. And believe me, the proof is right here in the numbers.
So check this out. Organizations that don't have a consistent newsletter, they're kind of stuck, hovering around a 45% retention rate. But what happens when they just add a newsletter into the mix? That rate jumps all the way up to 53%. That's a pretty huge boost from just one single change, right?
Oh, but it gets even better. It gets way more dramatic. Look at this. The most stunning number here for my money is for offline donors. Just adding them to an email newsletter can boost their retention by a whopping 73%. And for those brand new first-time donors, a good follow-up can take their retention rate from a pretty dismal 15% all the way up to 40%. That's incredible. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be super complicated. We're talking about something as simple as personalizing the subject line, just putting their name in it. That one little tweak leads to a 26% higher open rate. It just sends a small signal to the donor that says, hey, this isn't just a mass email blast. We're talking to you.
Okay, and here is where it all starts to click together. All these little efforts, they start to compound. Get this. A pretty small 10% increase in donor retention can literally double the lifetime value of your entire donor base. Just let that sink in. That is the kind of power we are talking about here.
All right, so we've covered the why, we get it. Now, let's get practical. Let's talk about the how. What does a newsletter that actually, works even look like?
This, right here, this is the secret sauce. Instead of just saying, we serve 200 children, you tell a story. A story like this one. It connects a person's donation directly to a real emotional outcome. Suddenly, Maria isn't a statistic on a spreadsheet. She's a real little girl who can now read a bedtime story, all because of what that donor did. That's what builds a real connection.
So your content really needs to be all about connection, not just dry information. You got to share those powerful stories about who you're actually helping. Maybe even shine a spotlight on some of your donors to make them feel like heroes. Give them a little peek behind the scenes. And super important, when you have a call to action, make sure it's not always give money. It could be asking them to volunteer, or share a post, or sign a petition. Mix it up.
And look, don't overcomplicate things with how often you send it. Just start with one really good quality newsletter a month. That's it. From there, you can start testing and learning.
A/B test your send times. Pay close attention to your open rates and your click rates. Those numbers will tell you exactly what's working. And always, always give your supporters control. Let them choose if they want to hear from you weekly or monthly or quarterly.
And hey, you don't have to do all of this by hand. There are some really great tools out there that can make this so much easier. Platforms like Help You Sponsor can automate a lot of the heavy lifting, like segmenting your audience and giving you the analytics you need to really see what's hitting home. It lets you constantly refine your strategy without pulling your hair out.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway? What's the bottom line? It's this. A newsletter isn't just another email you send out. It's a foundational tool. It's how you build something way more important, and that's trust.
And believe me, that trust is desperately needed right now. There's this huge trust gap in the nonprofit world. Get this. While something like 67% of donors say trust is absolutely essential for them to give, only 22%, that's barely 1 in 5, say they actually have high trust in charities. Regular, honest, transparent communication, that's how you start to close that gap.
And hey, if you need one last, cold, hard, bottom line reason to do this, here it is. For every single dollar you spend on email, the average return on that investment is $36. 36 to 1. It's one of the most efficient and cost-effective ways you can possibly build those relationships and secure support for the long haul.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final question to think about. When you communicate with your supporters, are you just trying to build transactions, or are you trying to build trust? Because building that trust is what turns a one-time donor into a lifelong champion for your cause. And that answer, well, it could change absolutely everything.